Hi everyone. Before we begin today's lesson, I wanted to make sure that you picked up the two green papers that are on the back table for Algebra 1. Please make sure that when you pick up these papers that you do not scramble up with the other papers because I do have stuff there for both of my classes. They should be titled Systems of Inequalities. Okay. Before we start our notes on these two pages, and they are going to be used over the next 2 days, so make sure they are placed in your binder because they are also going to be part of that binder check. I want to go ahead and do some notes on a blank sheet of paper. So this is not part of the packet. I want you to go ahead, take out a sheet of paper, a scratch piece of paper, something that you can hole punch and put in your binder. So when you are graphing linear equations or inequalities, always write them in slope-intercept form. So before we even start graphing so that we can find the slope easily and the y-intercept, we're going to put them in slope-intercept form. Now, when we were just doing equations, that's when we would have y equals mx plus b. Now that we're dealing with inequalities, we'll have y is greater than mx plus b, or y is less than mx plus b, or y is greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to mx plus b. Oops, that looks a little strange there. I'm going to go ahead and correct that. Okay. So if you've noticed with our inequalities, we have those greater than and less than symbols, or greater than or equal to symbols. That symbol is going to create a boundary line for us. So we are going to be doing some shading today. So it would be helpful if you had two colors or two highlighters, or if you had a pencil and a pen so we could see where they overlap. Okay. So talking about boundary lines, when we have a boundary line, if it is y is greater than mx plus b, okay, let me go ahead and write that there. If y is greater than mx plus b, then we are going to have a dashed boundary line. And I'm just going to write dashed line here. Okay. And when y is greater than that dashed line, we will be shading above that line. Okay. All right. When we have that y is greater than or equal to mx plus b, or whatever our equation is in slope-intercept form, here we are going to have a solid graph, or a solid line. And because it's still greater than, we will still shade above. Okay. All right, now the other one that we could have is y is less than our equation. Okay. When it is not equal to, it is still a dashed line. And in this case, since y is less than, we're going to shade below. Okay. When y is less than or equal to our equation, then we will have a solid line. Oops, I forgot to draw an example of that again here. And this time here, we would still shade below. So there are some similarities. We just have to pay attention to what they are, okay? All right, so another thing that I want to look at is when we are graphing these and we're drawing boundary lines, if there is no y term, so we just have x is greater than, or maybe we have x is less than, or x is greater than or equal to, or x is less than or equal to. All of these here would give me a horizontal line or horizontal graph. The horizontal graph would only cross the y-axis. Hold on, I had that backwards. Let me erase that. Okay, that would be, forgive me on that one. That one's not horizontal. When there is no y term and there's only an x term, it will give me a vertical graph. So it will never cross the y-axis. It will only cross the x-axis. Okay. If there is y is greater than, or y is less than, or y is greater than or equal to, or y is less than or equal to, in this case, then it will give me a horizontal graph. And this one here will not ever cross the x-axis, and it will only cross the y-axis. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and jump into today's notes and